Hi, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Sick Call. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. We're very excited to discuss all things veterinary medicine in the Army with Captain Christina Petersen. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
With us, we also have Staff Sergeant Soda Sim from the Hawaii team with us this morning. Good morning, Sergeant Sim. Thanks for being with us.
Aloha. Good morning.
And of course, we have Sergeant First Class Michael Cube.
Morning, everyone.
And myself, Sergeant First Class Michelle Phillips from the Valencia Army Medical Recruiting Station. This morning, we're doing something kind of different. We invited students from one of the local veterinary programs, Western University of Health Sciences, which happens to be Captain Petersen's alma mater. So thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So with that, we had some questions from the field, and we're going to get to those very shortly. But to kind of kick things off, we're going to let Captain Petersen give us her introduction and bio.
Good morning, everybody. So I am originally from the small town of Tehachapi, California. I always loved livestock medicine, so I did a lot of showing with 4-H and FFA, which led me to study dairy science over at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo on the coast. After graduation, I got married to an enlisted Chinese linguist with the Marine Corps. We got stationed in sunny Hawaii. I worked on building up my resume, working over at a horseback tour facility, which was fantastic, and then a small animal emergency medicine practice. I began my time over at Western in 2015, graduated in 2019, did my internship year with the military at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington, and now I am branch chief over at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam back in Hawaii.
So, ma'am, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Health Professions Scholarship Program?
Absolutely. So I applied during my first semester of veterinary school. I was awarded it in early 2016. After that, I did my normal student day-to-day stuff, all while getting a monthly stipend. I had some active duty time that I did on an annual basis. My first one was a basic officer leadership course, which was in Fort Sam Houston and San Antonio, Texas. It's a really great opportunity for some health professional development. We're not just veterinarians going to that course. We have doctors, medical doctors and dentists. So really great collaboration. You make a lot of great relationships. And then I had 2 other active duty trainings in Camp Pendleton, California. Excellent opportunity. It gave me the chance to see all aspects of our job, which makes you a little bit more prepared going into your intern year. And then over at the Military Working Dog Center at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas.
Awesome. Hey, ma'am, could you tell us about your experience in your first year graduate veterinary education? Your FIGV, sorry.
Yes. Okay. So FIGV is a little bit of a different internship than your traditional civilian one. And of course, that's because our job is so incredibly different. We wear a lot of hats. So you have a leadership portion where you're getting a feel for what is Army writing like, which, we have our own lingo for everything, how to interface with people of higher rank than you, just those common customs and courtesies. We also delve into our food mission. So we need to understand what is an audit. We go and we audit commercial food production facilities to make sure that all food sold to the Department of Defense is safe and wholesome. Additionally, of course, we have our animal medicine side. So we work with the military working dogs as well as personally owned animals. So brushing up on those skills, seeing appointments, getting a good feel for what it's like to be a doctor. So you like to use the phrase that you end FIGV a mile wide and an inch deep, and that's very accurate. They want to make sure you're successful with being exposed to all aspects of your job prior to your first assignment.
Now, ma'am, of course, all students look a little different as far as their personal life is concerned. And we understand that you were married when you went through the scholarship phase. Can you kind of talk about being a married student officer, if you will, and kind of what that requirement, was it different for any from your peers?
For the most part, I don't think it was too different. It's really nice to have a support network while you're in vet school. And I definitely relied on him when it did come to my active duty requirements during the year. That being said, so while I did away active duty trainings, if for some reason you can't work it into your curriculum or things just aren't working out, you can work with your HPSP coordinator to spend that active duty time just doing your normal school rotations. So what's nice about that is you'll get paid full active duty, not just your stipend. You graduate from the stipend amount to, okay, I'm a O2, second lieutenant in the Army. This is my stipend. You get an allowance for housing as a married service member, which is fantastic. And then you and your family will get healthcare benefits through TRICARE during that period of time. So yeah, definitely, if you end up taking this, you have a family, coordinate with your spouse and your family members to make it work, decide what's the best way to tweak these active duty trainings. But I don't think I had a harder time than anybody else. That's for sure. I think it worked out quite well for me.
So, ma'am, we have a question from the audience. How likely is it to have the opportunity to serve at your first duty choice?
So it definitely depends. There is a new program called AIM, the AIM Marketplace. Now, what that allows is a lot more transparency in the assignment process. It's about getting the right people and the right jobs at the right time. So what that looks like is before you know when you're going to be due to move, essentially. For us, it's generally on an every 3-year basis. The AIM Marketplace will open up. It will show the duty sites that are available for the level of job that you're in. So I am a 64 Alpha, which is the baseline veterinarian. I don't have a clinical specialty at this point in time, so I can see all assignments that are available to me. I will read the descriptions. I will generate an order of merit list where I want to go. I will post my resume. And so people can see a little bit about me, what my background is, what my achievements are, what I'm interested in most for my next assignment. And that allows commanders to check out, hey, is this person a good fit? In addition, a lot of units do post points of contact. So I was able to interview essentially with my future bosses. It's always one thing to see someone on paper. It's another to get that face-to-face or at least over the phone time and really flesh out, like, is this a good fit? So with AIM, it was the first year it was offered. We'll see how it further develops, but I got my number one choice. I had a 1-to-1 match, and I couldn't be happier to be here.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Another question from the audience. What are the biggest differences between the Army veterinary medicine from the civilian sector?
There, again, it goes back to we have a lot of responsibilities. So it definitely can be challenging juggling all of them. While your colleagues will be, going for civilian internships where they're, working those really long hours, having those, intense cases, we are a little bit different. So for the, personally owned animal side, we tend to focus, on more basic sick calls. Our advanced diagnostic capabilities are reserved for military working dogs. So we have access to MRI, CT. I just actually worked up a case going through all those imaging modalities. We're able to readily have access to some clinical specialists to consult on cases. So it's nice that even though you can be in more remote locations, you aren't ever alone, which is fantastic. But we do have increased responsibility. So we are in charge of soldiers. I have 10 soldiers that I, am personally accountable to and for. I'm there for them at all times. I also have civilian personnel. I run a hospital. I'm a brand new graduate. I am managing a practice. And of course, our food mission. Although some people choose to go the public health route as opposed to clinical medicine, we're expected to do both. So our day-to-day life, no 2 days are ever the same. A lot of hats to wear, but if you're the type of person that likes that diversity, the Army's the place for you. A wealth of opportunities, especially for travel. You could be traveling all over the world for food missions or for humanitarian aid. It's pretty awesome.
Well, in addition to the travel and work exposure experiences, ma'am, there's also opportunity for education growth as well, too, correct?
Yes. So all Army veterinarians, after they've been in for a certain period of time, in order to stay active duty, they're required to go to something called long-term health education training. Now, that can look like a number of things. You're specializing essentially, and you're choosing what path do I want to go down for the rest of my military career. A lot of people stay in the military after completing that. There is, of course, an additional obligation incurred, but generally you spend 3 years getting your full pay and rate and benefits, but you're a student full time in whatever capacity, whether or not you want to become a 64 Bravo, going the public health route, getting your master's in public health, or you're really interested in lab animal research, pathology, or other clinical specialties. That being said, you do need to work with a coordinator and see what offerings are available the year that you're applying. Some of our clinical specialties include surgery, behavior, physical therapy, radiology, and internal medicine are kind of our big ones. So, yep, just look out for opportunities and be prepared when that time is coming around to know what you really want to do. There are requirements, of course, before you can go to that program. Generally speaking, it's 2 assignments under your belt. So, 6 years of having assignments at minimum. But you can get around that a little bit if you have an outside of continental United States assignment. So for me, Hawaii, Alaska, those are called OCONUS. If I wanted to, I could apply for LFET and be selected for a position at the completion of this 3-year assignment.
So, ma'am, we have another question. How much equine veterinary services do you perform? And is this something that can be requested if you mainly wanted to become an equine vet?
So I think that that's challenging. There are some duty sites that have MWR stables on them. So MWR, it's a morale and recreation. Camp Pendleton has one. Army Wheeler Air Force Base has one. So Air Base. You need to look into what assignments are around and have those programs. For the most part, you're doing intake examinations on horses, making sure their vaccine program is appropriate, inspecting the stables for safety, doing inspections of their facilities, and population health. So making sure there's adequate quarantine happening, Coggins testing, things like that. As far as like full-time equine medicine goes, it's probably not going to happen. There are 2 major sites with military working horses, though, to know about. The caisson horses, so those are the horses that are used in ceremonial funerals, are located at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and over at Fort Belvoir on the East Coast. So that's going to be a lot more intensive. Obviously, you're the veterinarian assigned there. So if you are interested in that, of course, advocate for yourself, make it known that that's, the route that you want to go. Just understand that it's all depending on timing. If that slot is available, it's competitive. So just realize that it's possible, but more likely than not, you're going to be sent to assignment where, small animal medicine and military working dogs are primarily your role.
Wouldn't that, ma'am, be a reason why the AIM marketplace is such a great place to be, if you will, because it gives you that opportunity to see what's out there and be able to take advantage of those opportunities to sell yourself?
Exactly. No, I think that that's one of the best things. I mean, if you do come with special skills, like for me, I do have that livestock background. So that would have me be a good fit for assignments in the future, like civil affairs, where they are going to sort of remote locations and they need people with livestock experience to, help people on those missions. So definitely have that transparency, advocate for yourself. I loved AIM. I'm definitely hoping Army-wide it gets enacted for enlisted and officers.
So, ma'am, we have a question from YouTube right now, live. And we also had another question from a registrant while we were receiving the questions prior to today. Can you talk a little bit about the contract commitment for taking the scholarship, what your payback is, what that looks like?
Of course. So I received a 3-year scholarship, and I am expected to do at minimum 1 year of active duty obligation per year of scholarship received. Now, my internship year, which we're all required to do if you come in through the HPSP route, that internship year is obligation neutral. So that didn't count towards my payback. So my first assignment, 3 years, I will have 4 years under my belt at the time of completion. Your total contract is 8 years in length. So that last 4 years, you can either choose to stay in active duty and serve that obligation out, or you go into something called the individual ready reserve. That's different than the normal reserves. You do not have any kind of 45-day commitment annually. You don't have, weekend, once a month trainings. It's pretty much a fail safe. So if something happens and we need to mobilize veterinarians on a deployment, or your expertise is needed somewhere, the Army has that, fail safe. They can call you, and if they need to use you, you can be back on active duty at that time. But that's very rarely used. For the most part, you go on to your civilian life, essentially.
Ma'am, can you explain what your obligation looked like while you were a student, specifically during school, the ADT requirement?
So for the most part, I mean, I don't think my year was any different on an average basis. The nice part is, of course, I had peace of mind financially. During my 3rd and 4th year, I don't think I had to hustle quite as much with, trying to juggle interviews for internships and residencies. Considering residencies, it didn't feel like everything was an audition. So that was a really nice benefit. ADTs, so, I did try to work with, my 3rd and 4th year coordinators to find out, hey, where does this fit in? How could I have this be? Should this be a GP rotation? Can this be a canine rotation? Given that that's at, the particular sites that I was going to, mostly what I was focusing on. So that was really nice. It worked out well as complete school credit, just as a normal 30-day rotation, because you can customize it a little bit. I think when you go and do an ADT off-site or away from your veterinary medical school, it needs to be at least 3 weeks. So for Western, that could even be an independent study. So there's so much flexibility to tailor it, and there are a lot of sites. But the main point of it is so that you get an idea of, what is my job like? So you aren't totally blindsided when you hit FigView. You understand a little bit about how the vet corps works, and you kind of have an idea of, like, if I go to a non-deploying unit, what does my day-to-day kind of look like?
Speaking of day-to-day, ma'am, can you give our viewers a little bit of an idea what a normal day in veterinary medicine looks like for you as a veterinarian?
So I will say that no 2 days are the same. As a general rule, I try to have 1 surgery day every other week, 2 days where I'm in the clinic seeing the personally owned animals. I do spend a lot of time this time of year focusing on my international health certificates, so helping those families that are moving all over the world to make sure that their pets can accompany them. And then my other days are sort of filled with administrative tasks, taking care of my soldiers, making sure that we conduct any trainings with our military working dog handlers, training my clinic staff to make sure that they're proficient in their skills, as well as taking care of my food mission, of course. I have quarterly military sanitary inspections that I will conduct on those administrative days, and I will also do my audits during those time. Audits can take a couple of days sometimes, so you always have a lot of notice in advance so that you can plan your month to month what things are going to look like. Sometimes, of course, we can get tasked missions outside of our normal workflow. So if that were to occur, I would come up with a contingency plan for someone to cover down for me, taking over that 24/7 on-call role for my military working dogs, and I would go do that mission for a couple weeks, a couple months, just depending.
So, ma'am, we get a lot of questions about people interested in joining, what it's like having a family in the military and how that works. Can you talk about the career-family balance for you, and is it difficult?
I will say it's tough. I have been at pretty much military family at every level. My father was a Special Forces medical sergeant in the reserves. So he got called up to active duty deployments for 6 months, 2 years at a time. I was a spouse, so an enlisted service member who deployed, and now I'm the service member. So I think the biggest thing for you to be successful is communication. You do need to make sure that this is a good fit, because it isn't all these sacrifices that you make, miss holidays, miss birthdays, that doesn't just impact you. So you need to talk it through, make sure that it is a good fit, make sure that you're on board. And then, of course, think about those things, that flexibility. Does my spouse have a career that can get picked up and move every 3 years? What are ways we can make this work? Are we okay sometimes having to spend some time apart for us both to be fulfilled in our career path that we want to pursue? So it's challenging, but I think it's, worth the payoff, if it's the right fit. And of course, one of the things to know too is, honestly, 4 years is such a short period of time. You aren't signing up for 20. It's a very, on the relative scale of things, short period of time. So, you can have a very rewarding first year, first assignment experience and decide, you don't want to continue on. You can, also realize, hey, maybe this is, the life for me forever, and, put in that 20 years plus. So just communicate and over communicate. There shouldn't be surprises, essentially, have those tough talks. You are required to have family care plans in place. Let's say you have children, just to make sure, of course, that there is never going to be, you're never going to be put in a situation, where you kind of have to fully choose between military family. You can make it work.
Ma'am, what influenced your choice to pursue veterinary medicine in the Army?
So I, like most people, always wanted to be a veterinarian. You make that choice at age 5, you never look back. For the military portion, so my dad was called up to active duty shortly after 9/11. And there's something about that pride in service. I really, really wanted to join the military, but my dad kind of wanted to keep me on track, hey, you want to be a veterinarian, focus on that, make that happen. Military, you could do this later, we'll figure it out. But actually neither him nor I fully grasped what the Army veterinary career was like, or that the HPSP program was available. I learned about it during undergrad, and it just seemed like the perfect fit. You're merging two things that I always wanted to do. So, when I found out it was available, I did what I could to help make myself a competitive applicant, talk to people that had been in this job field before. And, once I got my acceptance letter to Western, I immediately started planning on working through that application process, getting in touch with the recruiter so that I could get on board and get through all that paperwork.
So we have another question from YouTube, ma'am. Jose, thank you so much for tuning in with us live. We appreciate your support this morning. And Captain Petersen is happy to answer your questions. So you talked a little bit about leadership opportunities and what that looks like. And you're a captain, you're an officer, you're an O3 in the military. What does the leadership aspect look like? And he is asking specifically, how many people are you in charge of?
So, like I said, I have 10 soldiers at my branch. So we've, of course, got a little bit of a structure. So I am a branch chief. I have a branch NCOIC. So that is my right-hand person. I go to them for everything. They help me with just making sure we're meeting mission requirements. We're taking care of our soldiers. And under my branch NCOIC, we have different levels of leadership as well. So at the end of the day, I am in charge of those people, but the responsibility is shared and split up. I'm ultimately accountable for everything that happens at this facility with my soldiers. So that's something to be aware of. You need to be taking care of them in whatever regards you can. Additionally, of course, I have my civilian hospital personnel. So, because again, I am a practice manager, I have doctors that work with me. They're fantastic. I have clerks, which are our reception equivalent, and then my operations assistant, who helps with ordering, administrative tasks, things like that. So, with the military, you do need to realize there's leadership opportunities available at every level. With this particular assignment, I'm a branch chief. If I was in a deploying unit, I would have less soldiers in my care, but again, still, you are in charge of people, always. If I stayed in long enough, of course, I could go on to become, an activity commander if that was something that I was interested in. I could, with the long-term health education, go back and be an instructor. That's always an option as well, and a pretty great one if you enjoy teaching. So there are leadership opportunities available, and it's definitely part of your job description. But there's a lot of ways that you can find what's a great fit for you as your career progresses. But do realize you have to take care of your people. And everything we do, we need to focus on that people first mentality. So, if you're not a people person, you don't like the idea of leadership, maybe this isn't the best fit. Because again, that is such an important part of our job.
No, and well said, ma'am. But I think the beauty about Army medicine as opposed to civilian medicine is that component of that hierarchy, that potential for promotion capability, the opportunity to serve your country, the opportunity to fill positions like post commander, depending on where you're at, or hospital commander is probably a better way of saying that for medicine. Sorry. The office of the Surgeon General, that's a position that's potentially down the road for someone. Not everybody can do it, but somebody will be groomed to be able to do that. So the beauty of Army medicine, and part of the thing that we really want to highlight, is that capability to be able to do both. You get the opportunity to serve, and clearly you're passionate about that, ma'am. You wear the uniform proudly, but you also get the opportunity to practice medicine the way that you want to, and that's definitely something we kind of want to highlight. And which segues me kind of a little bit into the other ways to serve, because we've talked a lot about the Health Profession Scholarship Program, but we also have folks that aren't in their first year. And in order to apply and to be eligible for the Health Profession Scholarship Program, you have to be in your first year of veterinary medicine in a DVM program to be eligible to apply. So with that said, that doesn't mean you can't join if you're in your third year or you're in your fourth year, or hey, maybe you want the Army Reserves, that part-time option. So what I would encourage you to do is to reach out to us, find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube, ask us questions. Our contact information is everywhere. We can always get you into contact with Captain Petersen, who is happy to ask those questions. Probably through us, but she's always happy to be that subject matter expert for all things veterinary medicine for us. But there is the opportunity to do the 1 weekend a month, the 2 weeks a year, have your civilian practice and serve your country. But yeah, please don't think that if you can't apply for the scholarship that you missed your boat. Just reach out to us and we'll talk to you one-on-one. Now, another question popped up from YouTube, ma'am. It's a question regarding deployments and what that looks like. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what that could possibly potentially look like for someone?
Yes. So this is my first assignment, and I am at what's called a TDA unit. So TDA unit is a non-deploying unit. However, we can get tasked with certain missions that go overseas, abroad, for temporary periods, ranging from 3 months to shorter week-long spans. If you are in a deployable unit, that is, of course, going to be unit dependent. So different units have different areas where they mobilize to. I can only speak from the little bit that I've gleaned during my FIGV year, but how it works with the 218th is they have a 3-year rotation that they go on. So essentially, they have 1 year where they're sort of permanently stationed at their site, training up, getting ready. It's kind of like an off year too if they did deployments. 1 year where they could do any kind of disaster relief, so assisting with short-term missions, in addition to, of course, National Guard, with things that come up in their area, their operations area. And then, of course, deploying year. So if they are tasked with a deployment, the length of time can vary. You can have 3-month-long deployments. You could have upwards of a year. It's just very variable. And one of the great things about, of course, AIM is when you are doing that interview process and trying to figure out which side do I want to go on for my first assignment, be in touch with those unit commanders. Find out, hey, what's your rotation schedule like right now? Are you guys at this point in time deploying? Of course, things change. To again, just assess, like, is this a good fit for me? Is this what I want to do right now? And there's nothing to say that you can't do back-to-back TDA assignments, but it is expected that if you're staying in, you do go for those deploying assignments. Because again, we want that responsibility to be shared equally, or at least going on an overseas OCONUS assignment. I could be at a non-deploying unit in Germany for 3 years. It's just incredibly variable.
Ma'am, the scholarship program for veterinary medicine is very competitive. What did you do to make yourself more appealing to the board?
So I think some of it, of course, was just inherently, like, I did have a military family. I think a big thing is they want to see that you're a leader. What kind of positions can you take up at your school that demonstrate, like, that you have leadership potential? Talk about those things in your application. For me, I did have the opportunity to do a little bit of ROTC leadership courses while I was in undergrad, with the intent of, again, making myself a more competitive applicant. But there are other ways to do that when you're in vet school. Reach out to your recruiter, get in touch with possibly some nearby military veterinarians, talk to them about their job, maybe see if there's any kind of shadowing opportunity. Just make those contacts, make some face-to-face time, assess if it's a good fit for you. But yeah, no, find those ways to make yourself stand out. The thing is, I don't think the military is looking for a picture-perfect applicant with perfect grades. I mean, perfect grades don't make you a perfect leader, and there's no such thing as a perfect leader. But just find ways to demonstrate that you understand the commitment that you're getting into, that you want to serve, and that you understand the mission a little bit. Like, if you just want to be a clinical veterinarian, this isn't a good fit, because we have so many responsibilities. You do need to understand and be willing to take on that food mission. And it's fun, honestly, if you enjoy how it's made, seeing, different processing facilities create the products that we use and eat day to day. It's, really, really fascinating. So yeah, just explore little things, and highlight what makes you different.
So that's the age-old question for recruiters, right? What can we do to help our applicants to make their process as seamless as possible, so that they look as competitive as possible to the board? So I think you answered that question beautifully, ma'am. Very well said, and gave a lot of insight to what the application process looks like for the boarding process. With that said, before I say last question, something popped on YouTube. Well, let me look one more time. After your first assignment rotation, 4 years, is there a retention bonus? And
so that part I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, it's dependent. Thank you, Jose, for the question. It will be dependent at that time. So the thing with retention bonuses, enlistment bonuses, if you want to call it a bonus, programs that we offer and things that are open, that's dependent upon the year. So the best advice I can give you is, if you're looking at joining time now and you're not currently serving, contact your recruiter, contact your nearest Army Medicine recruiter, your AMED recruiter. If you are currently serving and you're looking at staying in, that's the role of the retention officer, retention NCO, and your unit that you're assigned to can put you in contact with those folks to see what's out there and available. Oftentimes that's how folks end up in LTHET, for example, because that's that opportunity to ask for those options that are out there for them. Ma'am, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think is valuable information for these folks?
Absolutely. So as far as my own retention goes, so there is something called the Health Professions Loan Repayment Program that's available to you as an HPSP recipient, as well as a direct commission. The military gives you up to $120,000 to pay towards loans related to veterinary school. It doesn't count towards undergrad, but Western was pretty expensive. I did have to take loans out for my first year that included cost of living and tuition. So I signed on for an additional 3 years to help me with that debt burden. So that is a retention tool. It's not necessarily a bonus, but just things to know that is there. And again, if you want to do that direct commission route, that is an incentive that is available to you to assist with that debt burden.
Fantastic. Thank you, ma'am. So with that said, the question we ask all of our guests before they leave us, what advice can you offer to anyone that may be considering either the scholarship program or to come in as a working veterinarian into the AMED?
I guess the big thing is this job is incredible. If you do really want to serve, there's ways to make it happen. Just be in touch with the right people. The AMED recruiters are a fantastic resource, and do what you can to see if this is a good fit. And if you want it, don't give up. Be your own advocate, make it happen.
So with that, this week was a little different. I kind of mentioned that earlier. We had a Register to Win event associated with your time here with us this morning. And there's a Fitbit Versa involved in this for the winner. So the winner will be announced next week during our show with Lieutenant Colonel Bridges, our battalion commander and environmental science officer. So to all of you that have registered, good luck. To those of you that haven't registered yet, please, you are welcome to. The link is on our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel for you to be able to do. So please, by all means, join us if you are able to. Ma'am, thank you for your time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Of course, happy studying, everybody.
And then Sergeant Sim, thank you for being with us, and welcome to the team. Sergeant Sim's new to the Honolulu team.
Thank you. Yeah, this was incredible. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. You guys have a good day.
Excellent. So thank you everyone for being here as well from me. This wraps up another episode. Thank you to our viewers for tuning in with us live. As always, we welcome your questions. You can comment below or on any of our other social media platforms. We hope everyone has a happy, healthy, and safe weekend. And we look forward to seeing you again next Friday at 10 a.m. here on Sick Call.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.